a project that is rooted in long-term friendships between a group of great artists and the curator, Vicente Todolí.
He's not the curator. Oh no, of the project.
Oh, he is a curator.
Friendship between you and this curator.
Okay, yeah, just correcting that.
Todolí has done projects with all these artists that you see around you, sometimes in several locations throughout their careers. When he was directing the Ivan Museum in Valencia, the Serra Alves Museum in Oporto, Tate Modern in London, the Centro Botín in Santander, and currently Hangar Bicocca in Milan. We could say that in this way, this is a collection curated by Vicente Todolí because it shows some of the greatest artists he has collaborated with throughout his career. Collaborations that have become friendships and have been enriched by constant dialogue. Vicente is today accompanied by the magnificent artist Tacita, who needs no introduction. Today, she represents this group of great artists, some of whom are in the room, and who have come together to support the Todolí Citrus Foundation. This foundation started in a small plot of land belonging to Vicente's parents in Valencia, Spain, an area with a long tradition of citrus growth, but that today is sadly at risk of being ruined by irresponsible tourism and speculative development. Vicente has slowly managed to convince his neighbors to sell him small plots of land, one by one, and has put together the terrain that today holds the foundation, which one of the artists has used in his work. He has planted over 400 species, sometimes recuperating long-lost ones, becoming today the world's largest orchard of citrus planted inland. Private of citrus planted inland. He has added a laboratory in which the history of these plants is being documented, and experiments of taste, flavor, and odor are taking place. The Todolí Citrus Foundation is above all a project of recuperation of nature, of land, and of its tradition. Tacita and Vicente have been friends for a long time, and in her work, Tacita, in her methods sometimes, at times her methods are those of waiting for a chance outcome, which perhaps is an experience not so far from those of someone who is slowly growing a garden. Here they are, Tacita and Vicente Todolí.
So, I'm going to start this by reading the beginning of a WhatsApp correspondence. So, what year was it? 2018, when a group of us went to pick olives for Vicente, and it was Graham, who's here, yeah. Carson Huller, Julie Meritu, me, and Julia Sarmento. And there was one evening, we all went to visit your citrus garden. And that night, we got absolutely plastered. Do you remember? We got so drunk. And we all decided that we had to find a way of raising money to support Vicente's project. So I'm going to read you this because it's quite charming, actually. This is the beginning of a very, very long correspondence, but it's just to give you... okay, October the 7th, 2018. Julio Sarmento created group Operation Tot Ollie. Julio Sarmento added you. Julia, we are all in contact now, except for Julie, whose number I don't have. October the 8th, this is Julie's number, blah. Can you add her? Lovely seeing you. I'm still on the tarmac in Frankfurt. Tacita, that's me. Julia added Julie. Done. Julie's in. Safe travels. Paul Graham. Great title. Let's settle this once we're back at basis. Let me know if you want me to reach out to Robert Frank via Pace McGill. Wonderful seeing you all yesterday. Travel well. And then we have the list. Just sent you the first draft. Blah, blah, blah. Christina, she's on the list. She's here too. Okay, so one of the first people who was on the list was Lothar.
Yeah.
And there's these beautiful pictures of Lothar with
Buddha's hand.
The hand of God, or is it
Buddha's hand.
Buddha's hand.
Yeah.
He was dying at that point, And
his face gets a special light when he sees that. Yeah.
And I took him Vicente's Buddha's hand to his hospital. And I saw Lothar, he was on good form with his Citrus Maximus. I don't know what I meant by that. I'm not that Buddha's hand, yeah. I'm not sure he'd be up for it though, because of all the other constraints on his energy. I think we should take him off the list. I sent him everyone's love. Christina is in. And then I'm going to get to the bit, and I get distracted by Diane Arbus for some reason. And then it's all about trying to get James to curate it, which is quite funny. But anyway, so it's this rolling accumulation of people that we added who were friends of yours. That, I will see Matt Mullican, shall I ask him? Yes, amazing. He said absolutely, perhaps, and it grew and grew, more and more people. And so on and so forth. Just spoke to Miroslav Balka, and he is on. And Juliao was such a huge part of this. So it's, his absence is big, actually.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's just to give you how it happened, really. And I was going to read more of that, but I think it takes us on a different road. But that's how it started, was this friendship about all the people that loved you, Vicente, and that you'd work with, who were all trying to find the money to fund this amazing project of yours, which is so like art as well. I mean, the making of art. So that's how it started. And then Lucia came and took the role of curating it to some extent. And she's done wonders. And this is all the works that we made. And
so when I started the project in 2011-12, I didn't think of it as art, but slowly. It was mainly, I was doing a very small collection in a plot of land I bought next to my parents. The owner died, and my father said, I'm sure the widow doesn't want it, why don't you buy it? And you own some land, because in my family, owning land meant coming of age. And my grandfather told me the first land he bought, he was 12. I mean, amazing. Well, at that time at 12 they worked already, they made money. That was in the 20s, even before. My father probably bought his first land when he was like 20. Yeah. So for him, me buying land was meaning, okay, now you're part of the family. So I said, okay. And then we can do, we can put together some varieties, some of them already in danger of extinction, but it was only 3,000 square meters, so okay, I did it. Then I think we had like 24 varieties only, which is much more than people know when you go to the supermarket, which you only know 4. But then my father died when I was moving to London to Tate, and nobody was taking care of it, so the weeds grew. And at one point, my brother, who was, he had inherited the business, the nursery and landscaping, asked the worker to cut the weeds, but some of the trees that we had grafted, the weeds were above the tree, so he didn't see them. He cut weeds and trees. So I got so depressed. I said, so for several years, I just kept it like it was. I mean, okay. But then the opportunity came when, in a trip to Perpignan with Ferran Adrià, the cook of El Bulli, we were working together on this book with Richard Hamilton called Food for Thought for Food. He said, there are some people growing strange citrus in a greenhouse. I said, in Perpignan? Yes. So I went there, and yes, these people had them in pots, and they would bring them in March, bring them in the greenhouse in October. I said, all this effort. And in my land, which is the land of citrus, Valencia, mainly where I come from, in the Arangandia, nobody has done that. He said, do it yourself. I said, okay, why not? I said, okay, I have this plot of land, and my father intended something similar, but not in this scale. So I'll do that there. So there, and then I started with first 25 varieties. Then I bought the neighbor's land that was kind of abandoned, so I planted 25 more, 50. And with that, I was happy. I said 50 varieties, my private Idaho, my private oasis, my private paradise. And, but then I learned that there was a plan to develop the whole area and destroy the landscape of my childhood. This amazing area, which is an ocean of orange groves with mountain and sea. And then I said, no, it's not possible. So the owner of the family land was also involved. So first of all, I had to buy the family land, and then I went to the mayor. I said, if I do a foundation for the most important private foundation of citrus in the world, will you stop the development? He said, yes, but you have to buy your neighbors. Their property is very small, sometimes 500 meters, 1,000. The biggest one, I think, had like 3,000 square meters. So in 6 months, we bought like 12, and with time, we bought 24 neighbors. A little bit like domino theory. You start. And then I said, okay, now I have to do it. So first, I saw, where can I get this citrus? So there was a place in Italy for collectors that had kind of orangeries in Northern Europe. And so I started buying these varieties, and then I started thinking, well, now I have to order them in space. I said, well, this is like an exhibition, only that there was like a collection exhibition, only that there is a problem. With art, I know it. Citrus, I have no idea. So I had to start from zero, from scratch. I had to do research. But I was already planting. So the first 3 years, I was planting, and the next year, as the research was going on, I was unplanting and moving them because I didn't put them in the right space. Then I ran into this amazing map of citrus, which for the first time in history, it's the real relatives. That shows the parents, and the brothers, sisters, the siblings, nephews. So I started following this. This is all the other classifications before this were done according to taxonomy. You look at them, you by the outside appearance of leaves, of fruits, and also when do they ripe, etc. But this is the first time that the biggest specialists in the world got together and did DNA analysis. So that's here to stay. That's definitive. So when I discovered this, I said, okay, then I have to follow this. That gave me the score, how to do it. But at the same time, I said, well, but this is not scientific only exhibition. It has to work. It has to have rhythm, like any exhibition in a museum. And then, then doing research, bingo. I discovered that the first collector of citrus was Cosimo de Medicis in the middle of 16th century. I said, wow, so that's where art and citrus meet. And for him, he made no difference between citrus and art. It was the same. With more research, then I learned that in 14th century, there was a humanist that he developed a system of teaching where the arts, it was not only sculpture, painting, architecture, poetry, but also horticulture. Horticulture was another art discipline, the same than topiary, giving shape to trees. But then, inside horticulture, citrus had a special place. Why? Because of Hercules. Hercules, one of the biggest jobs of Hercules was when he stole the golden apples that were the citruses from the garden of Hesperides. So that's the reason they identified citrus as this object of desire that was stolen from the gods by this amazing opera. Opera, the word comes from the works of Hercules. So opera, so citrus was gardening was an opera. So I said, well, okay. So they thought, well, then this is a museum, but it's a museum where the collection is alive. You need to refresh it because it changes every season, and with the time they grow, etc. And it involves all the senses. And then we go to the idea of garden. Garden, in the original garden, comes from Persia. And garden, the word was paradise. So the word paradise means garden. So I said, okay, it has to involve all the senses. For the Arabs, the citrus garden was the closest place to paradise on earth because it involved all the senses. And sometimes, in some trees at the moment, you see 3 generations. You see the flower, you see the green citrus, and the ripe citrus. For Japanese, that's also very important because it means eternity. Die, from generation to generation. Japan is the country, together with Italy, I would say even more, that has the biggest adoration for citrus and citrus culture. And so then I said, okay, so it has to be research, it has to be also diffusion, but it also has to have history. So we have a small pavilion with, on the one hand, products with citrus, but also with engravings from the 3 treatises on citrus that were published. The first one, Ferraris, in 17th century. The second is Volkamer, which now Taschen did a big book in 17th century. In 18th century, and in 19th century, a French called Rizzo Poitou. So we are collecting also these engravings. And on the other hand, we have this lab where chefs can come and do recipes with the citrus from the foundation. We have also guided tours where you smell and taste, because with citrus, well, you have first how it looks, but the smell is fundamental. Many people don't know that the origins of eau de Cologne, it's from a citrus, it's from bergamot. It was an Italian guy who came with bergamots to Cologne, started doing this aqua mirabilis, like a kind of medicine, and then became eau de Cologne. So most of the fresh perfumes you use today are bergamot based. No? So it's a research facility, but also it's an experience where appeals to all the senses. and Tacita started before me. Tacita, when I saw your show here together with Julie,
Yeah.
you already had some works with lemons.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you told me you were collecting them since?
Oh, a while, but I mean, it's random with my collection.
No, but why lemons? And you can see the work here, at the entrance, the work. She did that when she was a student, no?
I did that as a Slade, yeah, the story of a lemon that grew hair. That was because it had pores. It was in my wildly feminist bearded women phase. And it was a little Super 8 film, and I would pull the hair out and then take another thing, and it was far too quick. But the actual slide films were much better, the stills. So I retrieved that work from Oblivion a while ago because it was because of Cibachrome paper. Actually, I had the last Cibachrome paper available, and I had the slides, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'll use, I had to use. So that's why. But of course, I have lemon. I can't say I have the same passion as you.
Well, but
I've been collecting lemon postcards
forever.
Yeah, as long as I've been doing postcards.
Yeah.
And yes, the story of the lemon that grew hair. But
why lemons? Why?
Because it had pores at that point.
Yeah, because of that. Yeah.
Because of it was like skin.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, but that's what I remember.
But finally, lemons, which are here. It's funny because when I am in Northern Europe, they tell me, how are your lemons? I say, no, citruses. When I am in Spain, they tell me, how are your oranges? I say, no, citruses. Okay. So maybe lemons, yeah.
Because it's here. This is the lemon.
The lemon, this is the lemon, which is, you see, it's not so important, the lemon.
No, it's not. It's third generation.
Yeah. So,
And where's the orange?
maybe it's because,
Oh, there.
also the same, maybe it's because of the Goethe. Goethe, when he was to Italy, he says, the land where lemons grow. No, he was really impressed. All the northern artists, when they went to southern Europe, maybe to Italy, they were impressed by the lemons. But also, in 18th century, there were lots of orangeries. So the orangeries were the places where they kept in winter the citruses in pots, and they were collectors. So the orangery here, like the orangery in Kassel, they were not for art, they were for citruses. Actually, there are a lot also in Holland, in England. Most of them now are for art or tea houses or restaurants. I don't think there's even one devoted still to citruses. But there was this passion for collecting citrus in 18th century, probably because in these dark, cold winters, the fruits, the colors, the aroma, the taste, and brought the sun from the south. So in a way, I call citrus the fruits of the winter sun, which we have, and here in the north, you don't. So there's something in the south sometimes that we have. But, so this, of course, after one point, when already communications started getting faster, then it was easier to get the fruit from Sicily when you have the steamboats, no, into northern Europe, and America, and then they say these orangeries kind of disappeared. But lemons come very late. The four real ancestors of citrus, which are the Citrus maxima or Pumelo, I think it's Pamplemousse in French, is the mother of all oranges and also the grandmother of grapefruit. Grapefruit only appears in 1750 in Barbados, so very, very recent, as a natural mutation. Citrus mutate a lot, naturally. Then the Citrus reticulata, that's the ancient mandarin. This has not been discovered yet, probably in China somewhere. So when the tangerine or the mandarin and the pumelo mix is when you get the oranges. But I would say the most important of all is Citrus medica. Citrus medica, called citron in English, cedrat in French, is the first, is the father of all limes and lemons, and is the first citrus that arrives in Europe. It's called medica, not because of medicinal properties, which it has, by the way, but because it was found in Meda, Persia, by the botanist traveling with Alexander the Great in 350 before Christ. And they brought it to Greece, then to Palestine, and then to Rome, and then it expanded through all the Mediterranean. Lemons only come much later. So when you see a citrus fruit in a Roman painting, in a Roman wall painting, it's not a lemon. It's a Citrus medica. When also in many paintings from 14th, 15th century, 16th century, they are Citrus medica. And then we have Citrus reticulata, micrantha. That's Asia. That's Asia. That's the father or the mother of limes and of all the oriental citruses like yuzu, sudachi, etc. These ancestors appear 8 million years ago. 8 million years ago in the foothills of Himalaya, in the area where northeast India, northern Burma, and southern China, Yunnan province, meet. They appear in the wild, and from there they expand in a ring. In a ring because they don't grow above a level and below a level. They need special conditions. They don't like cold, and they like lots of water. So it's mainly in Mediterranean climates. They have lots of pests. They mutate a lot. So I have 480 varieties, but there are many more. Sometimes the difference is very small. You see it and you say, what's the difference? Maybe one arrives 1 month before another. I mean, but okay, I think I have 480. If I could add 20 more from Japan, which for me is the country that has the most special ones, I would be happy with 500. I think with them, you can have an idea of what citrus are about. And
then what?
No, then see it grow, because that's the idea. Plant things to, and then at one point, take care, curator, take care. Actually, I go every week, I go around taking pictures, telling my workers, this is not right, look at this, look at this. Take care, and I have usually at least five trees of each. So that means I have almost 3,000 trees, because sometimes I have 20, 25. And when one of them dies, I feel really sorry. I mean, even if I have 4 more, but I'm sorry that one died. So no, every season is different, every year is different. They grow, they develop, and actually, even when you plant a new one, the first years in childhood, the taste is not the same. You have to wait 7 years, which is when they reach adulthood, and then, also then, there are more things. There are citrus, most of them you don't reproduce with seeds, but with grafting. So if you wanted to do a bank of citrus seeds, it would be not very useful. So what I have is called a bank of germplasm, because in order to reproduce them, you have to have the actual tree, most of them. So by doing this also, many researchers are doing research in my foundation in order to find solutions for new problems, like new pests. Like, for example, this one called greening, or Huanglongbing, which is killing citrus in Florida, now it's starting in California. So they are doing experiments with some rare citruses to see if they are resistant.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you do with all the fruit?
Well, with the fruit, then first, lots of it have to be in the tree, because that's the pleasure. But many of them overproduce, and actually it's not so good because they get exhausted. And so then you have to remove them. So those, I said, okay, it's a shame that we have to throw them, because many of them are not really to be eaten. But I said, okay, why don't we try to do marmalade? We did lots of tests with the ones you cannot eat. And then usually the best ones are the ones you cannot eat, because they are so acidic that then when you mix them with sugar, then you reach a balance. So that's the equilibrium with citrus, when acidity, sweetness, and bitterness are all equal. No? So we are doing 20 different kinds of marmalade of strange citrus, and that for me is like a kind of encyclopedia. It's learn while you eat. So we have these 20. Each one has a postcard with the history of the citrus and the uses. And in order to do 20, we did more than 100 tests. We don't do anything ourselves. That is done by an Argentinian lady who started in Paris, pastry, and now she's 2 kilometers away. She did her own marmalades. And I said, listen, I'll give you for free the citrus for your marmalades, and you do tests for us. And then when we select, we buy it from you, and then we sell it. Our idea is that people try to do things with what we have. No, it's not to do ourselves. No, it's, so chefs come to do, and hopefully in the future also some people will have ideas to develop new products, new sodas, new sauces, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for this, Vicente, about citrus? Paul?
Are they? You said you found some. You found some in China. Some obscure ones. Are they still finding rare, ancient breeds of citrus? Is it still being discovered?
Well, I have in my own foundation, whenever I bought a neighbor, if they had very ancient trees, more than 100 years old, I kept them. And then I developed a system where you make a cut, and then you make low. So first I make a cut on the root, to make it sprout. Hopefully, I mean, many cuts sprout. That's like Jurassic Park. It's like resuscitating, going back in time. So then I saw the citrus that was the foot where they rootstock, where you grafted. And this, for example, doesn't exist anymore. That's only, now no specialist knows it, okay? It's a very special kind of bitter orange, but not one known today. Then I went to the first, graft, and did another cut. So then I got the first citrus that got grafted there, and from there also we got 3 citruses which don't exist anymore. So in a way, they are back to life. So that's on the one hand. The big reservoir of citrus in the world is China. But Chinese don't like people to go there and see what they have. So there, I'm sure there are many varieties which I'm still not. And then one day, when the Chinese decide to study them, they will come out. But for the moment,
they won't share. It's closed off.
Yeah, at the beginning they were collaborating, but now researchers told me that it's kind of off limits. Yeah, they don't want people to discover them, take them, use them. They want to keep them for.
Sounds like a silkworm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then also, besides the natural mutations that happen, last year one happened with a lemon with a very strange shape. We'll see if it gives this year in my foundation. Besides that, when citrus became very commercial, mainly tangerines and oranges, then there are these research institutions in the world. There is one in Florida, one in California, one in Sicily, one in Corsica, one in Valencia. They started creating mutations. How do you do that? Not by grafting. No. We also try to do some. You take, in the spring, you take the pollen from one and put it in the flower of another one. And then you see if they have a different fruit. And then that is very complex, that with a special technology, they get to the Matt. Then almost like a kind of in a lab, they get the siblings, and then they plant, they grow them. But then from these siblings, they have small differences. They plant them and they wait again for the fruit, which means some years. And then they decide which one is better, and that one they keep. So, for example, when you go to a supermarket in February and March, and you see tangerines, first, they are not tangerines. They are tangelos. They are a hybrid of orange and tangerine, or of grapefruit and tangerine. And most of them have been created in these research facilities. The first one who started this was a scientist in Florida at the beginning of 20th century, and he crossed kumquat with Mexican limes. But he didn't do it for commercial reasons. At that time, the trade was not so big. He did it because he said, kumquat is able to stand cold weather, which is always a point for citrus. Lime is not. So let's see, if by doing this, I will create hardy trees that could allow to grow some varieties in very cold weather. So they were called limequats, kumquat, lime. and he had 3 of them. We have the 3 of them at the foundation. But then, before citrus will be mainly in one season. It was the fruit that came in winter. It made sense. Vitamin C, it was good against the cold, etc. But then the market, you know who is? The market wants it all year long. So then, in order to extend that, is when they started doing these hybrids in order to have citrus all year long, which is impossible because, well, now you have them from September until July, not August. August is the month where citrus needs to rest, no? Needs to be green, no? And also it's too hot. No? Yeah. But even in August now you find citrus in the supermarket because they bring them from the southern hemisphere. So, but they say that the market doesn't want something that appears only 1 or 2 months. That's in the past it was like this. In the past you waited for to this cherries month. Now it's the Satsuma time. No, in UK it's Satsumas in Christmas. No, everything had a ritual. This now is over. Now they want everything and they want it all the time. Yeah.
I mean, at Christmas it's always confusing, isn't it? Because it's Satsuma, clementine, tangerine. I guess that's when we know that there's a variety.
Yeah. And Satsuma are very famous in UK. You know why?
Why?
Because Satsuma was a battle that the Japanese fought against the British and they lost.
Ah.
And the British said, okay, as part of the deal, of the surrendering, you have to send us a boat to Satsumas every
so
winter.
The Japanese lost?
Yes.
Okay.
So they had to send the Satsumas. It was the Battle of Satsuma.
Okay.
In Japanese, it's called unshui.
Okay.
Citrus unshui, and they have many varieties. So that's the reason why they are.
So Satsuma was the place.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And do we still get that boat of Satsuma?
Good question. Let's ask the Queen. Actually, the Queen still gets something. Yeah. But Satsuma, for example, unshui, which for us is the earliest. It's not the they have Satsumas for many months in Japan. You know, only that Satsuma it was the earliest tangerine that appeared during the season, because it is in September, when the other tangerines like clementine. Well, actually, clementine.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
It's not a real tangerine.
Okay.
Clementine it's a hybrid of mandarin and orange.
Okay.
That is so sweet. And it was discovered in the garden of a convent by Father Clement in Algiers. That's the reason, Father Clement's Clementine. It only appeared in 19th century, beginning 19th century in Europe. Yeah.
And will you write a book? Will you ghostwrite a book?
Well, we are preparing a book with the biggest specialist in the history of citrus. It's an old man, old researcher living in Valencia. And we are going to publish a book with La Fábrica about the history of citrus. It's all his life. All the wisdom of his life is going to be there. He is always a little bit kind of not well. He says, I hope you publish it before I die. No, don't worry. So I think next year we'll publish it. And then we publish another volume where Tilio Codognato, the photographer of sculpture, is doing the photographs this winter. So it will be 2 volumes. Uh-huh. One volume about the history of citrus, another volume with photographs of the foundation made by Attilio. And we hope to publish it next year.
And what about other projects with artists in the future with your Citrus Foundation?
Well, there are 3 projects. One with Cristina Iglesias. She's going to come soon to work with water, because water is essential. We have 3 ponds in the foundation, and because water was essential in the Persian garden, in the Arab garden, the sound of water, but also it attracted birds, the sound of birds. And around the water pond, with the sound is where there were conversations with the artists, the poets, the philosophers. So talking about birds, Karsten is is a researcher of singing birds. He grows singing birds in his place in Stockholm. So he has designed an aviary. And then for the Museum of Products, Miralda, who works with Miralda, Antonio Miralda, he was the creator of this artist restaurant called El Internacional in New York. I was a waiter there when I was a student. So he will do kind of Museum of Products in there. So that's, and then that's, for the moment we have these 3 projects, but then also next weekend, a film curator came and said, I thought I have devised a film program about for your foundation to be shown there in the middle of the orange trees, the citrus trees. And I saw it, I said, oh, that's fantastic. I said, yeah, let's do it. So we are doing that next weekend. We're doing 2 programs. It's called Cine Paraíso. It plays with the idea of Cinema Paradiso, film paradise.
Okay.
And maybe we'll do this every year. We'll do a kind of 2 days with films that have to do with gardens, with trees, with fruits, with, yeah.
And so do you think it was actually citrus, not an apple, that that Eve picked from the tree?
Yes, well, that's a story. Some people say, yes, that it was not an apple, it was a citrus. Probably it was not one thing or the other.
Okay.
It was a round fruit.
Okay.
Malum. That's what, at least what the specialist told me. Yeah. So, and this round fruit, who knows what could be. Yeah.
So how did it become an apple and not a citrus?
Well, citrus,
in history, in narrative.
Citrus would be possible unless they brought it from Mesopotamia, from Media, from Persia.
Okay.
They brought it from Persia, but there is no evidence that when the Bible was written, that chapter, they knew citrus. But they didn't know apples either. So.
Okay. Because I would have thought, are apples younger than citrus?
Well, yes.
There was a documentary on the historical foundings that could or could not be found in the Bible. And the story would be that the fruit could have been actually pomegranate.
Probably.
And in the meantime, while the Bible was being written and disseminated, the most generic or most distributed fruit would be an apple. So then the apple became just the generic fruit.
Yes.
And that's why it became an apple in the Bible. But back then it was probably something else.
That makes sense. It makes sense also because the color of the pomegranate is so attractive, it's so sexy, you know. Also when it opens, you know. And actually, I have many pomegranate trees in my foundation. I have maybe 10 different kinds, because we also have a reference from 12th century in the area where they had a citrus grove, orchard, surrounded by pomegranate trees. And I said, well, it makes sense, because the only moment when you don't have color in the citrus orchard is when you have the color in the, which is now, in the pomegranates. So as an homage, I did an entrance with 2 lines of pomegranates. Yeah. Now, in the Bible, the one which is for sure a citrus, it's the citrus medica, the citron, because in the Sukkot festivity, they carry a palm leaf, a leaf of myrtle.
Bay? No.
Myrtle.
No, la myrrhe.
What is it?
Isn't it?
Myrtle and
Myrtle.
and etrog, a citrus medica. Citrus medica is called etrog in and that commemorates when the Moses left, no, with the cape. So at that time, yes, at that time they had and probably the citrus medica is there are several varieties like the etrog that you can eat the albedo, the white part, like an apple.
The pith.
The pith, yeah. So that probably that's very rich with vitamins, with so probably that made them travel in the desert, having a good source of vitamins and of food, of fiber also. Yeah.
And that's why it's called Medica.
Yeah, well, no, Medica because Meda, Persia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the origin, where it was found. It came probably from India.
Okay.
From India, it stopped in Persia. That's where Alexander the Great found them. Yeah.
Do we have to stop?
Okay, so
Does anyone have any last question?
Do you have a favorite?
no, that's like art. No, well, let's say one thing. I love all of them. Some are more attractive than others. They are all my kids. Okay, but for the shape, for the fragility, for the difference, for the smell, for the history, I would say Citrus Medica. Citrus Medica, we have 30 different varieties, and they are all amazing,
And
very
it's
different.
big.
Some are very big, some are not so big. Yeah. Yeah, the Buddha's hand, the one you gave, that's a Citrus Medica.
I thought it was a Maximus.
No, Maxima is the Pumelo. That's the Maxima.
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
Maxima. Yeah.
The finger line was the one that shocked me.
Yeah,
The finger line with its caviar line.
Like caviar, yes, finger line.
It's well known in Paris, but I've never seen it anywhere.
Well, that was only discovered 30 years ago in the rainforest in Australia. So it was aboriginal, and only 30 years ago we came, and now it's becoming very well known in some gastronomic shops or in some restaurants. You remember the one like caviar, the one that you cut and it was like caviar,
And
caviar
it has
balls.
little pearls of lime juice.
Yeah, lime juice, yeah,
It's put it on oysters or whatever. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
salads, yeah, like caviar.
Absolutely
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So you want to try them? You are all invited. We start our tours from November till end of April, early May. Every 2 months it changes completely. And the earliest ones are the Australian and Japanese. But then if you come late, then you have the flowers in March and April. But there you get drunk with inebriated, no? with this smells, aromas. Yeah.
And if you're rich, you can always buy one of these sets to support the Citrus Foundation, which is why we made it, because we need to raise, going back to the WhatsApp, we were trying to raise you $1 million. That's what we were trying to do. So, if you know anyone who's rich, if you're not rich yourself, there aren't that many in the world. There's only 17 for sale in the world. So it's very rare. But thank you, Vicente. Thank you.